functioning in both languages or code switching. Now, code switching, that is, switching from one linguistic code to another linguistic code, is a very common experience in multilingual contexts, and I'm sure you must have come across it in Pakistan also, where we constantly use more than one language even during the same conversation or during the same sentence. So when you ask anyone, any layperson or any researcher also, who a bilingual is, then the first thing that you come across is that a bilingual must have conversational skills or speaking skills in more than one language. So that would mean that even if a person has varying degrees of proficiency in the languages that he or she knows, it is the speaking of that language or being able to make conversation in more than one language that is somehow considered more important. So once we agree to that, then we would also say that more often than not, bilinguals almost naturally engage in code switching, that is the use of more than one language that they know. So now the question comes, and it must cross your minds also, why does code switching occur? Does code switching occur on account of lower proficiency? For instance, when your friends switch from English to Urdu and from Urdu to Punjabi, is it because they don't have a command over our language? They have this loss of words and then they switch to the codes of another language? Now, this is quite contested. However, this might not always be the case. So we are not saying it never happens because people don't know or the language or the vocabulary in a certain context and so they switch, but that is not always the case. If we come to code switching and if you pay attention to it, you would realize that actually it is quite a skilled manipulation of the grammars of two languages. So how you use a language and how you bring in other factors or other linguistic items into another language is not done randomly. However, it follows some sort of rules. And that is why the combination is never ungrammatical. For instance, I often give this example of a little girl who came back from England where she was born, and then one day, during one of my conversations with her, she said, "The balloon is phat," because she did not know in that context. She had not learned the word burst. She said, "The balloon is phat." Now, we as bilinguals, we as those people experienced in code switching could immediately see that there was something wrong and it was not an appropriate code switching. Now, what is it that makes us think so? It is the grammar, it is the lexical items, how they fit into another, that somehow gives us this intuitive feeling what is right or wrong. So usually we are either using the grammatical structure of English within which we use Urdu words or other words, or we are using the grammatical structure of Urdu or original language or any other language, and we try to use other words that might fit into it. So it's the grammar of one language is mapped onto the grammar of another one. There are researchers who even say that code switching actually has a discrete grammar of its own. And if you listen to it carefully, it follows neither always the rules of one grammar of a language or the other. Rather, it has its own unique grammar. Now, in this unique grammar, they say the code switchers or the bilinguals constantly change the pattern of language use based on their need. So there is a lot of language manipulation that is going on because of their needs. Now this has an impact, this view has an impact on how or if languages that the bilinguals know, are they not as proficient as the monolinguals? So this questioning of comparison of bilinguals with monolinguals becomes problematic, and we see that it is actually a deficit model that is being used to compare them. And what is more important, that is the ability of their ability to manipulate grammar, the ability to switch from one language to the other, and to perfectly fix the vocabulary of one into another, is simply ignored.